there, I'm Elizabeth Hines from OurPaleoFamily.com, and tonight I'm making cornbread. This is paleo cornbread, and you're right in that we don't eat corn on the paleo diet because corn is a grain. So this is my version of cornbread that doesn't actually have any corn in it, but through the magic of baking and special ingredients, which really aren't unusual, we get a finished product that tastes a lot like cornbread and has the same texture, and you can use it in your cornbread stuffing at Thanksgiving, which is in fact what I'm going to do. Tonight we're having it with chili, and it does contain some honey. I'm nearing the end of a Whole30, and so I'm making this for my guests. I'm not going to be able to indulge tonight because of the honey, and that is an important part of the recipe, and I can't leave it out. So let me show you how to make it. I have my oven on 375. I have a cast iron skillet here. My recipe calls for a 9-inch, but I have an 8-inch and a 10-inch, and so I'm going with the larger size because I want to make sure it's not going to bubble over into my oven. So I'm using a 10-inch cast iron, but if you have a 9-inch, that's ideal. Or you can use just a 9-inch square or round baking dish. But cornbread is traditionally cooked in a cast iron skillet, and it gives that a nice crust around the outside, and that's what we're going for. So my challenge with this is to remember that it's going in the oven, and when I pull it out, this handle is going to be hot. So I have 2 tablespoons of grass-fed butter in my skillet, and I'm going to put it in the oven, and it's going to heat up. And then I'm going to mix everything up, and then I'm going to pull this out and pour my batter in. Get out a couple hot pads so hopefully I remember. This is a super duper simple recipe. We're going to mix up our dry ingredients, we're going to mix up our wet ingredients, and then we're going to mix them together. And it is especially easy if you remember all of your ingredients. Okay, so my dry ingredients consist of 1 cup of almond flour. This recipe is on the website, so don't worry if you don't get a chance to jot it down. You can follow the link and find it for free up on the website. So we've got a cup of almond flour, a half a cup of ground flaxseed or flax meal. Different brands call it different things. This particular one is pretty dark in color. Some of them are more a lighter color. This one's pretty dark, but that's okay. It'll look nice actually in my cornbread. And my computer really doesn't want to stay awake for me. So I have a half a cup of that, and this has been in my pantry because I opened it not that long ago, but in fact it needs to go in the fridge or the freezer because it will go rancid. It's a seed, so it has a good amount of oil in it, and it needs to be kept chilled, and I'm certainly not going to go through that 2-pound bag very quickly. And then I need a 1/4 cup of arrowroot. If you don't have arrowroot, you could use tapioca starch instead. However, I like arrowroot better. Goodness gracious, it just doesn't believe me that I really wanted to be awake. All right, so a 1/4 cup of arrowroot, a teaspoon of salt. So this is just sea salt, a teaspoon of baking soda, and then 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. And coconut flour, I don't particularly love the taste of it, so I try to only use small amounts. It serves a good purpose because it is very dehydrating or drying. So if you have a batter that is a little too wet, you can add just a little bit of coconut flour. You're not adding a lot of ingredients, so not a lot of cost, and you're not adding a lot of starch, and you're getting that effect of thickening or sort of drying out. Here's my whisk. So that is the end of my dry ingredients. I'm going to whisk these together. Just work out any little lumps that are in there. Sometimes I'll freeze my almond flour. I've just been going through it lately, so I keep it in the fridge, which is fine. But when I freeze it, it tends to get really lumpy, and you'll want to run that through a sieve just to find, let me show you what I mean. Just a really simple, cheap, fine mesh strainer like this will get those lumps out really quick and easily. Okay, so there are my dry ingredients, and now I move on to the wet. This is super, super fast. So I need 3 large eggs. 1, 2, and 3. And a half a cup of palm shortening. which is pretty soft. It's not cold in my house, so we're at, it's this nice soft texture. I don't need to melt it. It will very easily mix in. I do just want to make sure I get it measured accurately. I want 1/2 cup. Kind of push it down in there. That's a little bit too much. That's just right. So 1/2 cup of the palm shortening. You could use a different fat if you like. You could use more of the grass-fed butter. You could use coconut oil. You could use lard. Lard would actually be really good in cornbread. But I'm not. I'm going to use my palm shortening. And then I need almond milk and honey. And just check your almond milk for naughty ingredients. This 365 brand from Whole Foods used to have carrageenan in it, which is a no-no. That's not, it's not good for you. But they have taken it out, thankfully. So we now have carrageenan free. And then I want 1/4 cup of this nice raw honey. I could also use maple syrup, but I'm running low on maple syrup. And I get it from this lady in my neighborhood, buys it directly from a farm in Pennsylvania. And I didn't order with her summer order because I thought I was going to have enough. And I am really running low, but she's going to order again close to Thanksgiving. So I'm trying to make the little bit that I have last me, and I need it for my paleo cookies that I sell, so I can't selfishly use it on my pancakes. Okay, so I'm just going to whisk this together. It looks a little bit lumpy. That palm shortening is no problem. It is going to mix up. Let me just push these things out of the way so you can totally see what's happening. Okay, so I've whisked this together. It's mixed up nicely. We dump that in the sink. Just make a little well here in my dry. And you could add your wet ingredients to your dry ingredients, or you could add your dry ingredients to your wet ingredients. As far as I'm concerned, in my experience, it doesn't make any difference which way you do that. I typically end up adding my wet to my dry because my dry is usually a greater volume, and so it's in the larger bowl. So if you have heard differently, that it makes a difference, do share. But in my experience, it doesn't make any difference. You just want to mix it together. This is like a quick bread, essentially, and so we don't want to beat it to death. We just want to get everything incorporated. I don't want to have any big lumps in there, and I want to make sure I don't have any dry pockets down at the bottom of my bowl. So just gently mix this together. I can hear the butter in my skillet sizzling, which is what I want. So as I pull this out of the oven, I just swirl that around. I'm just going to grab a bigger hot pad because I don't want to burn myself. So I'm going to get ready to pour this in. Just kind of get it to one side. I'm going to go way down low and slow so it doesn't splash that hot butter on me. I love this Kerrygold grass-fed butter. It has a great flavor. When I'm through with this Whole30 and I add a little bit of dairy back in, that is one that I'm really looking forward to adding back in and hoping that I am okay with it. So I'm going to show you this in just a second. Did you see how the butter was bubbled up around the edges? It's like a little moat of butter around the edges. That's just what I want. Don't stir that in. Leave it just like that. It'll help form that delicious crust on the outside. And this goes in the oven for just 23 to 25 minutes, just like a cake. You can stick a toothpick in it, and if the toothpick comes out without crumbs on it, then it's done. So in the oven it goes. Alright, so my cornbread is out of the oven. It got a little brown on top. I set the timer for 25 minutes and I didn't check it. My instructions said 23 to 25. So I'm thinking 23 would have been better. But I have this nice crusty edge and on the bottom. And it looks like cornbread, doesn't it? It's nice and golden, but there's no corn in there. You can cut this into wedges, cut it into squares, however you'd like to do it. You can serve this with some butter on the side, some honey would be delicious. And just like this will be great with our chili tonight. And like I said before, you can see this makes a very nice, generous serving. I made the recipe for Thanksgiving, so it's intended to serve a crowd. But I will end up using this in my dressing. So whatever we don't eat tonight will just go in the freezer. And it will be fine for about 6 weeks until Thanksgiving. So there's our Paleo corn-free cornbread. And the recipe is online for free on my website at ourpaleofamily.com.